No matter how much progress we have made as women, it still stands out. It still gets noticed. It's still unusual for a woman to live on her own terms unapologetically. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Our guest today is known precisely for doing that. Her latest is Taali. This, of course, is Sushmita Sen profiling the real life story of Gauri Sawant, a trans woman, a transgender activist, someone I've had the honor of actually knowing and interviewing several times in my journalistic life. Sushmita Sen's latest is released to critical acclaim. But today we'll be talking to the woman who has made it a habit of being in the headlines, oftentimes for her spunk and her couldn't give a shit attitude. Let's welcome Sushmita to the program. And as I said, it's quite unusual, even now, Sushmita, after all this time, after all these decades, it still gets noticed when women are unapologetic, when women choose their own terms, when women define their own idea of morality, of ethics. Um, does it get difficult to be as spunky as you seem publicly? Are there private moments of struggle?
Firstly, I must have this introduction written down and recorded somewhere. It was so kick-ass. Thank you so much, Barkha. Um, no, I think you just get better at it. And given that next year I complete 30 years in the public eye, 3 decades, you kind of have damn good amount of practice by then, and I've kind of made it a habit to try. I'm sure that it used to bother me a lot in my early, you know, 20s when I was in the early phase of my career as an actor. But after that, I think the more I chose to speak my mind, the easier it got.
I was just going to say that, people talk about aging and growing older. And I find one of the brilliant things about getting older is you start caring less and less about anybody else's opinion.
True that. True that.
Yeah. Let's talk about Tali, and then we have a whole lot of other things to talk about. I happen to know Gauri, and I know her from many years ago. But I was pained to see that when you first posted about the series,
Yeah.
there were comments that were hideously transphobic. You had words like "chakka" written on your comment page. How did you
Yeah.
navigate that? And did you have a sense of, how deep that kind of prejudice runs in our society till before you did this series?
No, actually, I've always known, just like most people, it's a very general idea. This is what the transgender community looks like, sounds like, behaves like, and everybody's fit into a single box. Everyone fits into that idea. They're loud, they scream, they abuse, they are not educated, and they are this and they are that. There's a lot of prejudice there. But when you experience someone calling you a chakka, that open, it came like a dhap shock because I'm not used to that. Um, and within seconds, I realized I'm portraying a character, the real life epic person like Sri Gauri Sawant. And for that, I'm being called Chaka, and I take it so personally. It bothered me. So I can't even begin to imagine what people have to live with
Yeah.
every single day of their lives. Uh, so we everything has a catch-22, which is what I learned through the making of Thali. We had workshops where it was less about learning acting or unlearning acting. It was more about understanding real life stories of these characters, of these people, and then saying, damn, there's so much that I take for granted in my life that they've had to fight for. Like in Tali, it's actually a true story from Gauri's life that when her friend was put in the hospital, the dead body, just to get a stretcher, to put the body on a stretcher. She had to do a dharna and sit outside and curse, and I don't know what all she had to do just to get that much.
Yeah.
It humbles you. It humbles you and it prepares you for what's to come. I don't know. I think it kind of empowered me to just go all in to tell the
Yeah.
story and become their voice.
You know, it's tough to let go of vanity in the kind of industry that you're in. But when you slip into a character where you're not playing any reality that you've known previously, you're stepping into somebody else's reality. Was it tough to let go of vanity? I mean, you're Sushmita Sen, in the earliest memory of an entire generation. You're the beauty queen, and then
Yeah.
you're stepping into a completely different character. How tough was it to let go of vanity?
It's a lovely question because I thought it would need a little bit of talking to myself. I thought that's what it would need. But surprisingly, the first day that we did the look test was 6 months since it was offered to me. So there was a gap of 6 months. And in that 6 months, I met with Gauri, I met with other transgender community members, I met with the creative people behind the team, everyone. Um, and after I met Gauri and said yes, this photo shoot happened, the look test. I
Yeah.
had already mentally decided that the only thing I wanted to get right was come as close to the essence of Gauri Sawant and her younger photograph as Ganesh, as close to it as possible. For the first time in my career, I think, in ages, I have not checked myself in the mirror to look at how beautiful I was looking. I looked at it to make sure I was still looking like Gauri and Ganesh. And a person like me saying, "Dada, मुझे लगता है यहाँ दाढ़ी कम है हाँ आज उसको continuity match करना है." So he'd be like, "मैम बाकी actors बोल रहे हैं उसको उतारो, आप लगवा रहे हो, क्या कर रहे हो मैम बहुत ज़्यादा दिखेगा." Things like that. No, for the first time, beauty had a different definition for me. It was more of
Yeah.
being these people than looking amazing.
So I want to ask you, and I've always wondered about this. Beauty was your entry into this larger world of media and entertainment and movies and modeling and all the rest of it. But over the years, has your idea of beauty changed? Have you come to a point where you sometimes challenge it? You're constantly in the public eye. Women, in particular, are pressured to look a certain way. There's a deep ageism about women. There's a deep racism or colorism about skin colors and tones. I'm just wondering along the way whether your ideas of beauty have altered.
No, I think it's gotten stronger. It's still pretty much what I thought it was. It's something that resonates long after you've left the room. I've always looked at it as God's handwriting, you're born with it. Some of us just look for it only in the mirror, others know better. So I think why I say that I've always known that is because when I went for Miss Universe, I was barely 18. And that shock on my face when I won was because I was horrified I won. I was like, I can't believe that, this is the idea of beauty that people project it to be. Then I would have never won. So I guess my mom's right. And the upbringing I've had is right. It's God's handwriting. There has to be more to you than what you see. It's deeper than your skin. Skin color, skin tone, essence, everything. So that hasn't really changed, but it has evolved in the sense that I've been a part of a very glamorous industry throughout. And I keep joking that you literally have to pay me to put makeup. Like it's just the only way I put it on. I'm usually bare skin and just me. Um,
Yeah. I
if
was, I
I
was, I was,
could, if I could, I
I,
would have preferred to not wear makeup and not be this. I would want people to know me the way I am.
I was going to ask that does it get tiring sometimes
Oh,
to,
it does.
you know,
That it does.
T.S. Eliot had a poem about putting on a face to meet other faces,
It's,
and I just wondered if it gets exhausting at times to constantly be perfectly manicured.
Yeah, it is very, very exhausting. This is not my favorite part of the process at all, except in Taali, the process was fun because it
Yeah.
was getting into a character, male and female. And like I was saying, I've played all genders now. Like it's fun. I have kind of come into my own in that sense. But no, as tiring as that is, you realize I'm a part of a visual medium. And so you have to just suck it up and put on that makeup and make sure your hair's looking fine and just get on with the job.
Now, you spoke about being 18, when Miss Universe happens. You're 24 when you're a mom.
Yeah.
That's really really young. Like when you think of it now, right?
Mm.
24 years old and to be a parent.
Mm.
I know at that time you must have felt completely ready, but like when I think of myself at 24, like I was just sort of, getting my feet around my professional life. And I'm
Mm.
just wondering how it's been a single mother. I know you've spoken in other interviews about how the toughest thing was to convince your father and you needed that support. But
Yeah.
along the way, to be a single mom,
Mm.
what's the journey been like? Apart from the good parts, what are the things that people don't understand, that people don't get?
Oh, no, no. The good part is till you become one. That's the good part. The good part is the romance in wanting to be a mother and then imagining what motherhood would be like. Then the practicality sets in. And then there is a lot of stuff that is not so romantic as the notion is. But
Yeah.
it's like a beautiful relationship. You grow into it. It's not
Yeah.
an instant love at first sight kind of thing. No matter how much we as mothers romanticize it, the fact is every step of the way, it has been a challenge to have to do it, given that I had girls and I never wanted to leave them alone. There were just different kinds of problems with that. And then I had to be the nurturer and the provider. So I had to be juggling a lot of different responsibilities. Um, but overall, I think the biggest fantastic thing about becoming a mother for me has been that it gave my life purpose, which at 24, given how I was on a plane taking off, gallivanting, I was living the life. There was nothing that was grounding me. It wouldn't have ended well. If I know myself, it wouldn't have ended well. And I
Why do
think
you
that
why do you why do you say that? I mean, it's great that being a parent gave you purpose, but your work would have also given you a sense of purpose and identity,
but my
wouldn't it
work
have?
also would have added to the same amount of excitement that my life had, you see, because it's a very glamorous job. It takes you places, you're always on a plane, you're traveling, meeting new people. There's nothing that you call home unless you build a home, in my line of work, especially. So I built a home very early in life, and that allowed me to do my job, get that satisfaction, do whatever, but have very strong discipline and principles by which I lived because I had to come back home, uh, and someone depended on me. That was, I think, the one most important driving force that motherhood brought in my life. That is the purpose I speak of.
What was the toughest thing about being a single parent?
Oh boy, not having at least 10 hands and 50 legs and 16 different versions of me and emotionally distressed most of the time. That's with one child. I imagine with one child. She needs me to be there. Renee was not very well when she came into my life. She had a medical condition, a very severe one. Um, so I'm filming, I'm giving you an example, all the way in Canada with Akshay and Karina. And it's a multi star cast, dates taken for Canada. And I have this pressure that people, as it is, are saying, she's not going to take her career seriously because now at 24, who becomes a mother and that to the way she did? So I have a point to prove. I must be there on time. I must do my job. No complaints. I get a call from Bombay. My father was babysitting Renee, and he said she's been hospitalized and she's very serious. I have left everyone in a lurch in Canada and taken a flight back and said, I know this is the end of my career, but I accept, I'm so sorry. That takes priority because it's her health. They were very nice about it, at least superficially, I think. But I left and I came back to my daughter and then saw her through 1 week of hospitalization and then ran back to say, I'm ready for the job, but the damage was done. So things like that, it was tough to be in two, three different places.
And if you didn't have that wider, Hillary Clinton had a book called It Takes a Village, and her whole thing
Yeah.
was that it does literally take a village. So imagine
Yeah.
for a moment you didn't have that support system of your family. I mean, there's so many women, men even, who may want to be single parents today who do not have that wider family support system. Could you have done it?
Absolutely. No doubt about it, because I have had emotional support of my family, physical support, I think more so my friends. I would have to give them credit for that because they've taken time out of their life to come and babysit my kids because I never could leave them alone. And some of my co-stars who've babysat them while I've carried my kids on sets. But yeah, I truly believe, Barkha, irrespective of the support, maybe just one more person. I think, other than me, one more person support, and I would be able to do exactly what I've done.
Bravo to you. I think more people should make individual choices. I think we make too many collective choices. Too few women make individually driven choices. I want to ask you what it has been like for you to constantly have your personal choices put under the microscope and we call names for them. I don't know how many people of this generation remember, but I think you were in your 20s when you had to famously declare that you could buy your own diamonds. Every time you have been or presumed to have been in a relationship, I don't even know that people can say it with certitude. They have assumed you're in a relationship. They have linked it to your somehow getting something out of the guy. Most recently, you wrote a very pained post when you were called a gold digger when Lalit Modi's post catapulted you into the headlines. And you said people are presuming to know everything about my life. Hey, I can still buy my own diamonds and I dig deeper than gold. I want you to talk about this moment that this is still happening to you. All these decades later, people are still presuming to know, assume, calling your names, suggesting that the only reason you'd be with a guy or not be with a guy would depend on wealth.
Yeah. I think it's just an overall insult to just the people they are, honestly, Barkha. It's not to me. You see, I've always maintained when I was a young kid to now, when I'm 47, it's been consistently there. The realization that an insult is an insult when you accept it. Otherwise, it's just a lot of noise, you know. And that was just a lot of noise. I mean, it's so insulting to even imagine the kind of upbringing people must have for them to believe that if a woman owns a house, somebody must have gifted it. If she's wearing a diamond, some man must have given it. And that after knowing that this person is an independent, financially independent woman. She works for a living. She may be an entrepreneur, she may be an actor, she could be anyone, she could be you. But the idea that it must come from a man's pocket just tells me the size of their intellect and their life experiences. It is not an insult to me. But when the last one came up, as recent as last year or whatever, the only reason I put out that post was to laugh at it, honestly, which I have. It wasn't so pained. It was just amusing because you call a woman a gold digger and then you go out there and put out these stories and your opinions and you're monetizing that gold digger. This is just a perception, but you're the reality, you're the real guy that's actually monetizing that concept by insulting a woman. I don't think this bothers me at all. What bothers me is having to let sometimes when you keep quiet, when good people keep quiet, the bad just thrives. I've seen that happen too many times. And we think it's not elegant to respond to something like this. Well, elegant be damned. I just needed them to know I am laughing my lungs out, and it's just showing me that the generations have changed, but they haven't
Yeah.
really grown morally or ethically much.
Yeah, elegance be damned for sure because like scrappy women, we need more of them. But you know what? I agree with your attitude. Like, who cares? And also that you'll respond when you feel like, you'll be silent when you feel like. Absolutely. But it's got to impact relationships, right? Not everybody is used to being in the goldfish bowl. Not everybody is used to having constant assumptions about your life, right? So
Yeah.
does this kind of public scrutiny eventually create a blowback in your personal life, in your personal relationships?
If it does, which it has in the past for sure, but if
Yeah.
it does still do that, I usually consider that a blessing because
Why?
insecure people in my environment don't stay for very long. It's just a natural process of elimination. वजह कोई
Yeah.
भी बन जाती है, some reason or
Yeah.
the other, but it eliminates what is not good for my growth. So it's a good thing.
Basically, you're saying if they're not going to fit into your world, may as well know it earlier than later.
Yeah, and I think if they're not secure enough to take the brickbats and the compliments, and when they feel very proud when they say, your girlfriend or your woman is doing so well, she's done this brilliantly or that brilliantly.
Yeah.
So when they say something wrong, you should be able to also withstand that because your
Yeah.
woman can.
Let's talk in the end about how kind or unkind the industry is to women. How's it been for you?
Ooh, kind and unkind. I think the biggest mistake we can make as actresses is that expect kindness in this industry.
Fairness. Maybe fairness is
Fairness
a
is
better word.
fairness is a better word. And fairness is, again, it's a man's world, it's a man's industry. And there is no two ways about it.
Even
The
now,
Of
even
course,
now.
of course, of course. But that's where, given this space in OTT, as an actor, it's a completely new innings because you're not looking at NAS building and territories and collections and this hero sells for that much, the heroine oriented subjects. All this has kind of taken a backseat. I like that. I like that you can be a performer and at any age of your life. And I mean, the characters I'm playing today, I couldn't have played when I was 18. The 18-year-old college girl stories don't interest me at all. I don't want them.
Yeah.
So to be an actor, this right now is amazing, but to expect fairness for anything, I mean, we know it. Even if I headline a show, I have to fight for the figures that I want because someone's throwing me numbers of the next male hero, A-lister, who's charged so much, and how can you expect that? That's
Yeah.
where I think OTT is changing the game because now that's not what they give me an example of anymore.
There's the pay parity issue, of course.
Yeah.
In what other way is it a man's world still?
Oh, it's the whole gamut of it. The saleability, the idea of saleability. I'm talking now purely films.
Yeah.
Still does not engage the idea of being gender fluid. It's still very much male and four or five top actors. And as a female actor, you're done if you don't belong to one of the camps or get along with at least all of them, you know. So I think that hasn't changed much. Um,
And,
there is a
and
lot.
and 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 do you get along with them? And are you in the camps?
Never have belonged to any. My career should tell you that. I just
you,
tell you
you
that.
see, you see, a sense of humor will lift any moment, no matter what it feels like, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But go
No,
ahead.
and
But go
also,
ahead. Yeah.
it's also, I think, compliments to the people who can play by those rules because that is not easy to do either. But
Yeah.
it's just not my rules. I don't know how to work with those. So I have not been able to do that. It's very, I want to just learn. I just want to grow. I want someone to tell me to Hogi Stars 90s ki now come back and learn because you don't know your art. I
Yeah.
need that in my life right now. I don't need to be waiting endlessly to massage egos to make people feel better about themselves and their careers. I have a job to do. And if I'm not good at that job, you must punish me every which way possible. But don't punish me just because I'm a woman who's not willing to play by the book.
Well said. Hopefully, series like Tali will help you do some of that. Let me ask you in the end, what you would tell your, I want to say 18-year-old self, but at 18 you were already in the headlines. So what would you tell your 16-year-old self today? What have you learned in life that you tell your 16-year-old self today?
Look after your heart.
Hey, I forgot to ask you what was with. Oh my God, I should have asked you that right in the beginning. How
No,
are
no,
you
no, no.
doing? How are you
Much,
doing? How are
much.
you doing? Tell us what happened.
So I don't know what happened. Honestly, just I'm somebody who's always been checking my heart, uh, testing stress tests, this, that, ECG, 2D echoes, like regularly. I do it every 6 months because both my parents genetically have a heart condition. So it was an absolute shocker when it happened because
Yeah,
I had tested myself 6 months ago. But I think, Barkha, now is a time when I have realized the environment we're living in, the kind of things that we've been through, including COVID and stuff. I really think everybody should watch their health and test themselves pretty often. Random stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Um, I was my fittest best, my healthiest best when this, and it could happen to me. So um, it's a good idea to watch your health. It went off beautifully. I was done with the stent in 45 minutes, and then I wanted to go home because I don't like hospitals. And so I was such a bad patient. They let me go 48 hours later. And then I basically have been healing since. I finished Taali, I finished Arya 3, and I'm gearing up to go drop my daughter to her school. And then I will come back to a new set of cinema and work that is waiting.
Well, I'm glad you're well, but I want to let you complete your thought. When you would tell your 16-year-old self, look after
She
your
comes
heart.
back to it. I thought
Yes.
you would let that one go.
No, I wouldn't be a good journalist if I didn't remember to come back to where I'd started. Look after your heart. You didn't mean it in the sense of a heart attack, and thank God, touch wood, you're fine.
I did
Look after
actually
your
mean it
heart. Oh,
literally
did
and
you?
symbolically. I did.
Okay.
Symbolically also because I've followed my heart. It's because I've lived most of my life in the public eye. That's just been a consistent fact about me. I have lived from here, you know. And so sometimes while doing that, you don't take care of the place where you're coming from. And I think the heart attack, spiritually, symbolically, also was a wake up call to remember that I didn't look after it well enough. So,
I get that, and we're glad you're better now, symbolically and literally,
and
and may you keep being a symbol of somebody who lives on her own terms. I think very few women still do that. Very few women are able to do that happily and also make a joke or two about themselves. So power on. Thank you, and take care.
lovely
Thanks.
speaking to you, Barkha. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.